Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 20th meeting of the Environmental Quality Commission, July 20th, 2022. And at this point, this teleconference meeting with the EQC, Environmental Quality Commission, its members, the staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. So at this point, Sustainability Manager Lucky, can you make a roll call?
Sure, I will do roll call. Let's see. Commissioner Elkins?
Yeah. I'm here. Okay, got it.
Commissioner Evans?
Hello, here.
Chair Cabot?
Here.
Vice Chair Headley?
Present.
Commissioner Lynn?
Present.
And Commissioner London informed that she would be able to make the meeting, as well as Commissioner Schmidt. I return the meeting back to you, Chair Cabot.
All right, and also present with us are Sustainability Manager Rebecca Lucky and Management Analyst Ori Paz. So, Ms. Lucky, would you please provide instructions to the advisory body and members of the public about how the meeting will proceed?
Sure, thank you, Chair Cabot and members of the Environmental Quality Commission. Welcome everyone to the July 20th regular meeting of the Environmental Quality Commission, and thank you for attending. At this time, I do ask that the members of the Environmental Quality Commission please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. If you need to excuse yourself for a brief moment, you can go ahead and do that, but once you return, please turn on your camera. You'll be able to control your own webcams and microphones, and staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to members of the commission. And for members who are in attendance and are public and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, use the raised hand feature that's usually next to your name or somewhere on the bottom of Zoom, and I'll be able to open up your microphone and you can provide your public comment to the commission, which is limited to 3 minutes. And anybody who's calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you can press *9 to raise your virtual hand. And that concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting back to you, Chair Cabot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so under public comment, the public may address the EQC on any matters that are not on tonight's agenda, and the public can speak for up to 3 minutes each. And so please clearly state your name, address, and political jurisdiction in which you live, or that political jurisdiction. And also the EQC cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the EQC cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment, other than to provide general information. And so, Ms. Lucky, do we have any public comment on the consent calendar? Excuse me, on this at this time.
Yes, thank you, Chair Cabot. Yeah, so anyone wishing to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, you can use your raised hand feature next to your name or on the bottom of the screen, and I will be able to call on you. And we do have one comment at this time, public commenter, Ollie Agassin. So let me unmute you. Oh, sorry. I think I got the wrong person there. Let me try to. There you go. And there. Sorry, Mr. Agassin, but you may speak at this time if you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. Sound check. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, Environmental Quality Commission. I would like to, I'm Ollie Agassin in Allied Arts in Menlo Park. I would like tonight to share my experience with obtaining a water heater replacement permit. I am in the process of replacing an old gas burner with an electrical heat pump. The story starts with my plumber heading out on vacation, and he says, while I'm away, could you pull the permit? And I say, sure. So this is a first for me. Menlo Park's building department requires an online account, so I have to go online and create an account, which I'm slightly reluctant to do because we all know one more account is one more that could be hacked. But I manage that. I poke around, I specify water heater replacement, enter my contact information, plumber's contractor number and license number and insurance, and specify that I'm upgrading from methane burner to electrical heat pump. Need to provide a T24 form, note a UEF factor and other things, and then I pay $194 to get the permit. Great. Just to compare, in Foster City, I believe the permit fee is $16. Later, I get an email saying the permit application status is approved, and I see the charge on my credit card, so I assume all is well, but it's not. On day 12, I get another email saying permit application must be resubmitted due to lack of information. I contact Linda Watka, and I get 2 documents specifying additional requirements and general comments, including architectural requirements, 7 applicable codes, mechanical requirements, electrical requirements, plumbing requirements, all of which I share with a friend who replies, nightmare. I bike down to the building department to see if it's a mistake, but I'm told, no, it's not a mistake. We've had recent inspections fail, so we have additional upfront requirements now. To answer these requirements, I put together a 20-page slide deck that I hope can provide the required information so we can get the permit issued. By day 20, I call my plumber to cancel the installation since I do not have a permit yet. Could he help me? No, he would only work in person. He doesn't do anything online, but maybe I could hire an engineering company, he suggests. Day 23, I actually get the permit to issue it, and I'm extremely happy. And this experience leads me to 3 recommendations. Clearly, the permit process should be simpler so that a normal plumber can do it. Online is good, but online shouldn't be the only option. Recommendation 2, processing should be faster. 23 days is just too long. We couldn't live without hot water in an emergency for 23 days. And recommendation 3, could the city waive permit fees or lower them when installing electrical appliances and increase them when installing polluting gas appliances? Thank you, EQC.
All right, thank you. Are there any more public comments?
Last call for public comments. You can use the raised hand feature if you'd like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda. I do not see any hands raised at this time. Chair Cabot, we return the meeting back to you.
All right, thank you. So now we move to regular business. And under regular business, the EQC considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require EQC approval. And so item D1 is to approve the June 15th, 2022 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. They're attached. Hopefully members have had a chance to review them. And is there a motion? Yep. Vice Chair Headley.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
All right, moved by Vice Chair Headley and seconded by Commissioner Elkins. And any discussion of the minutes before calling for a vote? Okay, seeing no hands raised, may we call for a vote?
So if I may, Chair Cabot, I think we just, for the formality of calling for public comment on this item.
Oh yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Could we call for public comment on approval of the June 15th minutes?
At this time, if you'd like to make public comment on the minutes for June from the EQC, the Environmental Quality Commission, please use your raised hand feature. I do not see any hands raised.
All right. So do
I
we
can
have,
take roll call.
all right,
motion.
let's go ahead and have the roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Chair Cabot,
Aye.
Vice Chair Headley,
Aye.
and Commissioner Lynn.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that takes us to item D2 of regular business. And that one is to discuss ideas for building decarbonization, outreach, and education. So it's the outreach and education activities discussion related to building decarbonization. And so this is something, I'll try to introduce it a bit, but it's a kind of a major component of the city's climate action plan that was approved 2 years ago, the climate action plan. And then about 11 months ago, the council made clear that they would like some public outreach performed to make sure the public was engaged on the issue of what we are doing and proposing to do. And we have public input on policies to look at how to address the climate action plan goal of getting to 90% emissions reduction across all of our emissions, including electrifying 95% of buildings by the year 2030. So that's a large undertaking, and it's in keeping with the science-based goals of trying to maintain a 1.5 degree rise or less in global temperatures. If all sectors were pursuing goals as ambitious as that and achieving them, we probably would be able to stay at 1.5 degrees temperature rise and avoid the worst of climate change. That's only really just started. So we have a kind of a science-based goal and an ambition, but we're looking now at the ideas for how to do outreach before adopting policies that will help us meet those goals. And so this is an item to have us discuss, ideas for outreach and education on the building decarbonization topic. And so, Ms. Lucky, has staff prepared any presentation or item about this?
Thank you, Chair Cabot. So we wanted to keep it more of a brainstorming session with the commission. So we've kind of put together kind of some of our thoughts on process and some ideas to add to, and I could share that with you, and we can certainly add more to that. Bear with me for a second while I find the correct screen here. Oh, can you see my screen?
You see, it's a small part of the screen right now, and
larger?
I have the ability on mine to enlarge it by moving a bar over. Maybe others have the same.
Maybe let me try it again. How about now? Is that better?
It's not up yet. So before, what I was seeing was a screensaver. Okay, now it's coming up with a PowerPoint.
I can see it.
Great.
Right.
So our process in kind of talking with the chair and the vice chair on this was to collect ideas and thoughts, as Chair Cabot mentioned, and maybe even go a step further and figure out who the partners are and budget and metrics to measure progress. But really this meeting might be useful just to kind of figure out ideas and then kind of figure out all the other aspects of this. And we can figure out, who would be best to lead some of these tasks and prioritize. So as you know, it's Ori and I, but we also have commissioners. We also have nonprofits in the community that can support these efforts. And we always just have to be mindful of, if we're going to do more outreach, like what are the trade-offs in these other areas as far as progressing reach codes or eliminating fossil fuels for municipal operations. And so from a staff perspective, that's kind of where we're at. And we can kind of gauge like where we can go as far as like what kind of outreach we can do between like September and December, and kind of, again, what other individuals want to do apart from the commission, but as individuals who are passionate about kind of educating the community on this front and being influencers as well. And I think honestly, like the message does come across better when it's someone who lives in the community and is providing a pathway for someone to understand how to go about electrification. So some of the ideas that we started with, Ori and I, it was possibly a charrette to discuss electrification for various stakeholders to share their perspectives. So it's getting everybody in the same room. A homes in the future kind of art contest for schools, which involves, you know, families understanding what electrification is through students. So I think this was mentioned in our public comment earlier, but permit process templates and education. So to help both contractors, community members kind of understand the permit process. And we can of course put information on our website. We currently have material on it about how to electrify. There's always a possibility of doing tabling at the farmer's market downtown, and there's a summertime farmer's market at Meta as well. And we can also do email and social media blast, sorry, should be media. And we currently do that, you know, as we kind of go along on this journey to kind of educate the community about electrification. And Ori's been really great about trying to find different ways to engage folks versus just written material, like animated videos that have kind of like the cartoons to help people understand whether it's like the permit process or the cap in general or building electrification. And again, I would say like all of these bullet points we've listed, like we at the staff level can't do all of them in the next 6 months. It's maybe like 1 or 2, but maybe there's some aspects again that our partners in the community can take on, or some of our commissioners could do. And we've looked at kind of potential partners as well in our next slide. And if anyone has any other ideas too, that's great. So this is just kind of a first meeting on it. Is that kind of what works for you, Chair Cabot? And
that's helpful to hear that this, you know, kind of the start of some of the ideas that you have in mind. And so I thought I'd back up a step and talk about kind of 2 uses of the outreach for upcoming activities, and maybe it's hopefully combined into 1 use, but it's, I look at the outreach as being helpful for the council, having the comfort to choose impactful science-based targets for their policy making when it comes to reach codes for the building code cycle. And we are in the kind of the rollout phase of building reach codes to cities. From Peninsula Clean Energy, they've got their website up now with lots of ideas for possible reach codes that, you know, by doing quite a few ideas on there that they put forward in their menu of ideas to cities, there are policies that can get towards that science-based target that Menlo Park has already adopted. So one of the issues is outreach that's adequate for council to consider an impactful new construction reach code for brand new buildings on bare dirt. And then the other related one is having council policies adopted for a reach code affecting existing buildings that might undergo remodels or even just furnace replacements, water heater replacements, or air conditioning installation, and using 2-way heat pumps instead of just 1-way air conditioners as the way to get, you know, provide summer and winter comfort and decarbonize at the same time. So these two issues of helping do the outreach that makes council comfortable with passing impactful reach codes on new construction and on existing construction reach codes. And it's the existing ones that I believe are the more challenging ones for councils to approve, in that they affect more buildings and not in a less voluntary way than volunteering to build a new building. Because when your furnace burns out, you really feel like getting a new one in order to get comfortable. So it's kind of a forced adventure in replacing it. And so having a reach code that is sensitive to that issue and has had enough outreach is important to the council for them to have the support of the community and understanding of the community in adopting something that will preserve the climate. So those are two uses for it. And then my other question to staff is, does staff have a feeling about what is the level of outreach needed in order to achieve those two uses for the outreach? Oh, and I do see a hand raised. Commissioner Evans.
Well, that's okay, Tom. Thank you. Excuse me, Chair Cabot. I'll let staff respond to that before I ask my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think where we're at right now with, I would say, outreach regarding reach codes and kind of either enhancing our 2019 reach codes and existing building reach codes is we need to get some direction from City Council. That was the next step in the process for kind of figuring out what level of outreach is needed based upon where the City Council would like to go with the recommendations from the Environmental Quality Commission and from staff on reach codes. And we're getting there slowly but surely. And I think the message that we also hear at a staff level from some commissioners and some council members too is that they'd like to just see general education about reach codes. I mean, not reach codes, but building electrification. And so that kind of terminology, kind of what that means and how it relates to the cap is understood to kind of get to that next level of, why are we looking at a potential rule for existing buildings. And we can certainly come back to the commission to talk about that outreach once we get that direction from City Council and their desire to kind of which measures they want to push forward as far as existing and new construction reach codes.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. And yes, Chair Cabot, yes, agreed about the way that you outlined the purposes of doing this outreach. And I would say an overarching one that touches both of those, both new construction and existing construction, and frankly, any and all electrification work that we want to do going forward, I think is what I refer to as myth busting. I think we all know and have seen a plethora of misinformation everywhere in the almanac, on Nextdoor. And some of it, I think we may never be able to quell because it could be people who just, are maybe aligned with the fossil fuel industry and are eager to prevent us from moving forward, for lack of a better phrase. But I also think that there's authentically a lot of misinformation out there about the public, including basic things like, well, if you shift to all electric appliances, you're just going to be sourcing your energy from another fossil fuel source, which of course isn't true because we work with Peninsula Clean Energy and 100% of our electricity is carbon free. And so, yes, I'd love to see myth busting be either the title of a bunch of outreach and or a major component of all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's sounding a lot like some of the content
You're right.
in the outreach.
And bleeding into the future, yeah.
Addressing both that and then we heard Rebecca also mentioning the people's interest in general education on electrification too. So that's also about the content. And then the initial slide that Rebecca was able to share was about different avenues of outreach and different activities that would help move the message outward and give chances for us to hear back from the community what their concerns are, their interests, and their suggestions. So it makes sense that we think about those two things, about what is the content that we want to be able to share, and what are then these avenues through which to share it, and also the avenues through which to pick up more understanding of the public's concerns, issues, and suggestions.
I have a few other ideas to add, but I don't want to go in front of others who may have had their hands raised. But we're still going. I would just say school newsletters, the three public school districts, and possibly some private school newsletters to the extent that we have relationships there, as a way of reaching families. The Boys and Girls Club has a lot of good access, as I understand it, to families in Belhaven. Of course, that's a potential partner. School districts could also be a potential partner. The other thing I would add to ideas are in-person events that are separate from the farmers market, to the extent that we decide. We could either do them through churches and other community organizations like the Rotary Club, so sort of houses of worship, places where people congregate, could also be a source of those, and or in-person events that are in some type of public location, whether it be a library or a fire station or wherever, in English and in Spanish. And then that, of course, will get to budget, to the extent that we have budget to help support, audiovisual and Spanish translation, etc.
All right, thank you. And as Rebecca mentioned, trying to make this more brainstorming, we ought to try to be informal. And so if people have ideas they want to build upon on this list, please come forward and just shout them out. And I've seen Vice Chair Hadley's ready to speak already.
Oh, and pardon me, Chair Cabot, just again, the formality of, I know this is like more of a brainstorming session, but maybe after Vice Chair Headley's kind of discussion points, we can do public comment. I think the public's got a good feel of where we're going with this. So if they have any ideas, they can definitely chime in too.
That sounds good. We'll do that after Vice Chair Headley.
Excellent. I was going to add to Commissioner Evans' point, I think it was another slide about different outreach partners. I think religious organizations could be a really great one there. For instance, I was on the website of the Trinity Church last night, and they have a whole thing going on with environmental movement there. I had a question regarding the connection between the outreach to the public and the reach codes that we are considering recommending to City Council. I'm kind of like, wait, which way are we going with this conversation? So maybe that's a question for you, Chair Cabot. Are we trying to do both in this conversation, or mostly focus on public education?
Yeah, good question. Let's see. I look at the reach code issue and opportunity as kind of an urgent thing that I would want the council to have all our advice in hand so that they can pass impactful reach codes that become effective on January 1st. And that means they need to be passing them in the fall around their October or November meetings in order to be approved by the Energy Commission for effectiveness on January 1st of 2023. The reason to try to do it with that timing is in order to create a workload confusion for staff where there are different periods of applicable rules, and that we don't create a gap period where there's no reach code and then later a reach code is implemented. And so then they've got projects that were submitted in the gap period and then projects submitted after the reach code becomes effective. So that's an issue that I try to work on to help make staff's life easier under the administering all these codes, and also to help make the codes more impactful. But it does make me want to focus on being sure that we do the amounts and types of outreach that are adequate for council to make their reach code decisions, at least, and have those be the urgent issue in the outreach. And then we can have longer ongoing outreach that also addresses, the basic general ed, but it's tough having the general ed be after the impactful part. So we've got a little bit of a problem of trying to fit a lot of things through the remaining calendar space to get January 1st implementation on reach codes. So that's what I think about. The other thing is, just because we missed the January 1st date doesn't mean we have to wait 3 years for a reach code. You can do it at any date after that also. It just is creating this intermediate period that staff also has to manage a second set of codes.
And I can chime in a little bit too before we take some public comment, but I think, again, just to reiterate, we do need direction from City Council on what EQC recommendations or staff recommendations they want to move forward with as part of outreach for reach codes. And once that kind of happens, the window is still very small to make the January 1st, but as Chair Cabot pointed out, there is still opportunity to do that afterwards. And I think the idea is we could come back to the EQC once the council has given us some direction to talk about like how that outreach could occur and get some ideas again about what role the city staff can play in that, and what role you as influencers in the community can also help support people in understanding the measures as well. So I don't know if that makes it a little bit easier as far as like parsing this out and trying to tackle it. I mean, we could definitely, if anyone has any ideas about the reach code, I mean, we could definitely start a slide on that and just kind of have that as a back pocket kind of idea, framework to work from. So I don't want to stop all the great ideas from flowing at all.
So Rebecca, how about if we make that slide that is, call it reach code specific outreach, if that's what you think would help us land things there. And then if we could call for any public comment on this agenda item in general, if there's seeing how, we've teed it up and the start of the flow of ideas, but if we can give them a chance to also share their thoughts.
Let me just create a new slide here. Okay, so if there are any members of the public who are in attendance that would like to speak on outreach ideas for building electrification, outreach and education, you can use the raised hand feature. Usually it's at the bottom of the screen, or you can use your, next to your name, there should be a selection where you can raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute your microphone. If you're on a landline, you could press *9 and I'll be able to unmute you as well. So with that, we do have one public commenter at this time, Diane Bailey. And I've unmuted you to be able to speak now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner Chair Cabot and Commissioners and staff. My name is Diane Bailey. I'm with Menlo Spark. I wasn't planning on speaking. I sent an email shortly before your meeting and just wanted to reiterate the support in my email message that strongly support this item, and Menlo Spark stands ready to assist in any way necessary. And I know that there are a lot of other very concerned residents who would be interested in helping out as well in any way that we can. And very much appreciate the comments from Chair Cabot and other commissioners. So thanks for having this discussion, and let us know in the community if there's anything that we can do to help you.
All right, thank you. And I see another hand.
Oops. Let me see. So our next public commenter is Ollie Agassin, and should be able to speak now.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, I'm just sort of popping up a level or going meta, as we used to say in the programming language community. We're looking at a global problem here of climate change, and it's a large problem that needs to be solved at many levels in many communities. And I think it would be good if Menlo Park could collectively get to the point where we consider ourselves to be the leaders. When a lot of participants have to work together to solve a problem, some will be leading and some will be lagging. And I think the place where we need to lead is in a rich city, town, or whatever we call it, in a wealthy state, in the richest nation in the world. That's where we need leadership. And we need to get into our collective mindset that we are not leading in a futile way, because if we don't get the rest of the world with us, we won't accomplish what we need. We need to get into the mindset that we are leading because we can lead, and we are leading because we can, drag the rest of the world forward. I think leadership really has to come from a place that is exactly like Menlo Park. And could that perhaps permeate our thinking and guide us when we are looking at different options? We need to be the ones who are aggressive. We need to be the ones who are acting firmly and decisively. And if we can't do it, nobody can do it, but I know we can do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Agassin. And I know from helping draft the climate action plan, that was the major theme of Menlo Park's climate action plan, was recognition that if Menlo Park doesn't lead, it's silly to expect any different community to lead on this issue. We are uniquely positioned in terms of having a very educated and engaged populace, and having certainly wealth in some areas, and extreme exposure to climate risks at the high end and the low end of our elevations. So certainly across the whole middle too, with all the kind of the global food chain and other international disaster problems that are related to a rapidly changing and deteriorating climate. So I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Agassin that it makes sense to lead, and that is the only way that we can hope to achieve climate preservation, is by having others build upon the effort started here. And it worked out quite well with staff's innovative proposal for the REACH code. Many other cities followed that and built upon it and made even better versions than the one we made. But it made, it made all the difference that we worked hard in the spring and summer and got one kind of into the public eye, where other cities could see it and recognize the usefulness of it and adopt it. I think that same kind of thing can happen this year again in REACH codes. From attending other cities' meetings on REACH codes already, I'm noticing them hanging back. Some of the council members I've heard ask the question, why should my rich city lead? They didn't say rich city, but many cities in San Mateo County are, and on a global basis at least. So, I'm looking at it and agreeing with you that I think we need to figure out how to lead, and I think that our outreach efforts should reflect that. See, I did get a chance to skim through the comment letters sent to us by Diane Bailey, and in it she does raise an issue also raised earlier by Mr. Agassin about perhaps a session could be had about exploring the possibilities for streamlining of permitting process for electrification. And that, that might be a kind of a topic area to engage the community in, and to see if they've got ideas and experiences and suggestions for how that might happen. And I think it makes sense to help create an understanding between community members and staff members about what the experience is like and feels like, the ways that we each have to engage in it, and to see what are the possibilities for streamlining this. Yes. I see Commissioner Evans.
Are we, well, are we done taking public comment? I don't want to interrupt if we are still in the middle of that piece.
Oh, yeah, last call for public comment. I do not see any further hands raised. You may continue the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Cabot, I wanted to say, yes, I agree. I think that hearing stories from the community about the successes and challenges that they've had with permitting could definitely inform some good decision making about how to streamline it. I definitely think that should be a part of it. And I would say that in the interim, it's my very loud dog. In the interim, I'd love to see us get some basic fixes in place if we could, and not, maybe that, I don't know if that's a subject for maybe the August EQC meeting, if people are amenable to that, when we set that agenda. But I'd love to see us try for some basic permit streamlining that's low-hanging fruit and just makes good sense, so that we don't delay streamlines because we're including it in the outreach. I'd like to see both. Basic things like moving it along faster, reducing fees, some of the things that that we've been hearing over and over again. And then when we reach out to the community, we can refine from there if we need to. I guess what I'm saying in a very long-winded way is that I feel a lot of urgency with respect to streamlining the permitting process, especially as we begin to get our block power underway, and especially as electrification needs grow. I think the permitting department is going to get more demand, and so anything that we can do now to make things easier would be welcomed. Thank you.
And if I may, I could, give some updates in that area. I mean, so we did include that as part of the ideas aspect of outreach and education. I think, the process is a process for reasons to make sure that life and safety is always upheld. But if there are better ways to communicate and help people understand like the process and how to get through it efficiently and effectively, I think that's what we're aiming to do. And Ori is working with the building division, because we have been receiving the same emails, most of the same emails that you've been receiving, as well as to kind of the issues you're experiencing. And I don't know if most of you know, but we did transition to an online permitting system over the last year. So I wouldn't say it's just, I don't know if we can say it's just limited to building electrification. It might be a result of also transitioning our entire system to an online system. And kind of now that we've have it implemented over the last several months, it's kind of going through and figuring out like how can we make all of it easier, not just like the one aspect, but understanding that this is a high priority item. So I mean, we're actively trying to watch out like where we can kind of make sure that we're meeting the life and safety requirements, but also making it easier and faster. And the council did provide some direction, I'm blinking on the date, but to reduce the permit fees as well for conversions. And so we're looking at that as well. And I know we have now a pretty full building decarbonization subcommittee And so if there's any, further ideas that group wants to work on as far as ideas on permit streamlining, maybe that's something they could do and bring back to the EQC and get input on,
Thank
or
you.
provide it to staff too. I mean, if that's even faster.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that work, Rebecca and Ori.
Yeah, so and thank you for this suggestion. So I think that does make sense that that the building electrification subcommittee of the EQC take a quick look at this issue and try to provide their recommendations to staff and to start that conversation between staff and the subcommittee maybe, and then see if we need to bring it to the whole EQC for advice to council if it looks like that's needed. So we can try that through the subcommittee and staff discussion, and then see what the two bodies together decide that to do. Let's see, and Rebecca, are you able to put your document back on the,
Sure.
the shared screen, and that might give people an idea about ideas they may want to add into the document or want to explore ones already listed there. Right, so right before we broke away from the document, Rebecca labeled this slide now general outreach on electrification, and that she'd started a new one on ideas related to more specifically to reach code outreach. I think, let's see, when it, as I start to think about, well, it becomes, maybe it's, I immediately think of content, but first thinking of the avenues for reach code outreach, somehow being able to reach out to the building community, maybe through an email to the types of builders who have applications in already with the city or builders that the city knows of, to engage them in the discussion of reach codes and their ideas for how to make a smooth transition towards this 95% of buildings electrified, and see if they're able to engage with us about how to do that, and then maybe outreach to the landlord community to try to see what their thoughts are and concerns and what kind of assistance they might need in order to be considering how to upgrade their properties as we move along.
Chair Cabot, I'm not sure if you can see, but are you able to see when people raise their hands?
Oh, sorry, I am not seeing right now.
I know sometimes the screen is not set up.
Yep, let me
Always
change. And so, no, I don't see a raised hand. Do you?
I think there were a few. There was
So,
3.
Okay, now, sorry about missing all that. So I do now see Commissioner Elkins.
Yes, I did have my hand raised, but then as I was sitting there, I lowered it just as you were having that discussion about whether you could see them or not. I was going to make a comment about another idea for outreach for electrification, but I'm feeling like I'm unclear on whether we know what we're going to talk about. Like, I like this, the farmers market idea. I think a lot of the online ideas are good, except they require people to seek them out. Whereas a farmer's market, people might just stop by and, oh, look, electrification, I want to know about that. But do we know what the content of this is going to be? I guess that's irrelevant to my other suggestion, which was, let's say that we do know what we want to tell people. I think a fair like we had, like the one that was described to us in June, was very successful. That's something that would attract families to come out with their children. I think would be a great way to get this message across, and to have people who know what they're talking about there, maybe in separate booths, learn how to convert your water heater, learn how to add solar, and then also, maybe just a presentation on why this is all important. But I'm not getting the idea that we're there yet.
I'm glad you're raising the content, topic, and right. So different content makes sense in different avenues. So it makes sense to start making that matrix of avenues and content and which ones to try to match up. And then I see Commissioner Evans' hand.
Thank you. In general, I mean, this could fall under partnership or ideas, wherever you want to put it. To the extent that we are able to partner or co-brand or location with mainstream organizations in our community that reach people that go beyond, environmentalists, I think that's a good thing. And was in a meeting earlier today where relationship with the fire department was raised, and it was a ding, ding, ding moment. To the extent that we're able to partner with the fire department, either on their premises or have firemen and women come out and speak and join with us. Not only does electrification reduce fire risk in your home or your building because you're getting rid of gas lines, but of course we all know that methane contributes enormously to climate change, which causes wildfires. And so if we could sort of, and wildfires and fire safety is something that's a concern, I think, for almost every family in our community at this point, one way or another. And so that the extent that we can visually really connect those themes, I think that could be powerful.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good idea. And also we, I think it was through the EQC that we had a presentation by the Joint Powers Creek Authority for San Francisco Creek, and the presenter, I think their executive director, was making that tie-in that you can't just concrete the creek and keep raising the walls on it. You have to fight climate change if you're going to have a well-behaved creek. And so it's a two-pronged thing. And if we're able to find the same kind of understanding at the fire department, that also would really help the community engage in the message and understand the tie-in between reducing emissions and setting that leadership so others can follow and globally reduce emissions, and taking all the adaptive precautions we have to deal with the residual risk. So I like that idea of trying to partner up with those types of trusted community service providers. Do any other ideas occur to people on the separate ideas of outreach avenues or content, or also would anyone like to start combining them and suggesting content for avenues?
Does anyone have additional ideas on, so fire department, Rotary Club, Boys and Girls? What about other mainstream or schools that I'm not thinking of that can reach people that we might not have access to? otherwise? What other sort of mainstream trusted community organizations are out there?
I would say the CERT people, the Menlo, what do they call them? Menlo Preparedness
Yeah.
group that just was advertising. They're having a get together this weekend, I think.
I went to one of those years ago. It was really well done.
Menlo, it has a name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna think of it.
And I do agree, the Rotary Club is a good one to reach out to. I know that International Rotary has adopted climate preservation as one of their new goals as well. So they're looking at ways to kind of be engaged in outreach and mitigation efforts.
Menlo Park Ready, I think they refer to themselves as Menlo Park Ready.
Are they a group or how do they identify?
Good question. Let's see. Oh, there's my dog. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if they're an activity that has a budget through the city, or no, they may already have some designation like that. Actually,
I think they refer to themselves as MPC Ready.
Yes.
With Lynn Bramlett.
With the C being city.
I'm not sure what the C is. Let me click on this flyer to see if there's more information there.
Yeah, I'm on their website, menloparkready.org, volunteer-based organization to advance the building of disaster preparedness, organized and resilient neighborhoods. And they are partnered with the Fire Protection District.
I was more involved with them at the beginning of the pandemic. And at the time, I don't think they had any funding from the city.
I see.
It was an entirely volunteer-led organization. That may have changed over time, though.
Right. And that's reminded me of another interesting tie-in between the city and a nonprofit, and that's the Friends of the Menlo Park Library. Just as an interesting model arrangement where there is a close tie-in and usage of facilities to meet mutual goals of helping to improve the library. And so, one idea that occurred to me from looking at that model is, how might a nonprofit enter into some kind of relationship with a city that's trying to make climate progress in order to be a Friends of the Climate Action Plan type of organization with closer ties to the city and assisting in pursuit of these mutual goals. So maybe I'll put that question out to staff to maybe talk to your fellow staff in the library section about that relationship between the nonprofit and the city, and look at do you see a beneficial role for a parallel relationship with another nonprofit?
What about the food trucks? How long do those last? Is that just a summer and early fall? That are there Wednesday evenings. That's a venue like the farmers market, maybe where the city would let us have a booth. I don't know.
That's it's off the grid, and you have to talk to them to get permission, I think.
Okay.
And then it's on the Caltrans, it's all Caltrain property, so you have to ask Caltrain if you're going to have a booth.
Okay.
Off outside of them. Like if off the grid says no, then you can still hang around on the edges, but you have to ask Caltrain if you can do that.
I see. So that's off the grid.
Right. Exactly. Way off.
I mean, it's just, I'm just throwing it out there. We'd have to decide which one's going to give us the greatest return for our efforts and money, but I'm
But
just,
back to my idea that we don't have content yet, but once we do, I mean, I think that Menlo Spark can have, and just the general public on next door have enthusiasm for bringing this message to fellow residents and are willing to do, door to door, door hangers, talking to people at their doorstep.
Yeah. Even mailings, which we don't really seem to have on there. I was thinking about another potential partner, kind of along the lines of Menlo Spark, is the Menlo Park Climate Team, a project of 350 Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, they seem to have some great ideas about how to get residents engaged on climate.
And let's see, I wish I had a written note or easy access to the note about what teams subcommittees have we formed from the EQC, and is there essentially isn't there an outreach related subcommittee already?
There is.
And
And
for all I know, I'm also on it. So
I think so.
Yep. Yep. And so it makes sense that as a next step that we ask that subcommittee to meet with staff in the coming week or two to, kind of further flesh out ideas raised here and have some back and forth discussion about, just more in depth and detail on practical avenues and content associated for them. And then maybe also to, I guess it'd be the building subcommittee would look at the issue of permit streamlining separately from that outreach group. But yeah, so I think it makes sense for us to be looking at subcommittee activities that can help work on these things. And does anyone else see other subcommittee tie-ins that might help with outreach on this?
well, there's climate adaptability subcommittee, I believe. And so everything ties back together, of course.
Yeah. I had a question about the REACH code discussion that we were having earlier. And I don't know well, I guess I have a question, like, is there any action to take now? I know, Tom, you're going to be presenting to the city council later this month. And I believe that's going to include our recommendations around the REACH codes. Yes. And I know there's concerns about the timing for getting a new REACH code approved, but I was also wondering, could we just simply extend the current REACH codes until new ones are recommended and approved to avoid the gap that you were talking about with, things reverting back after the 3-year?
So I don't believe we can unilaterally extend them. They need to be approved by the Energy Commission, either, if we want to do one. And so in my opinion, it makes sense to improve upon the existing one we have in the areas it already addresses. It already leaves, in my opinion, too many exemptions that are luring people into making costly commitments to fossil-fired equipment when they replace things, and also when they build, that they can still build with gas dryers and gas cooking and gas fireplaces and things like that, that are just a costly route to go when those will have to be retrofitted, which costs too much in the future. So I think there's kind of loopholes to ask the council to be plugging in the existing REACH code for it to become the new REACH code. And then there's advancements in the REACH code to have it apply to more buildings so that it can really assist the city in meeting its adopted goal of 95% of buildings becoming all electric by 2030. So it's like this, the REACH code renewal opportunity is this great bus that is scheduled to leave on January 1st, but it also leaves every day after that. It'd be nice to be able to encourage the council that we get the city to hop on that bus and use it to meet our goals.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm wondering, are there any actions that we can take as commissioners, or anything that staff can do, or how do we support that process?
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe the EQC quarterly report is a public comment opportunity also. So there's a chance for people to make brief comments to help show the breadth of support in the community. I know the council always wonders how wide is the level of support for this? Is the community there if the council's ready to lead? So that's a question, and anything that can be done to help them see the breadth of support would be very helpful. I'm afraid they get tired of hearing from me, so new voices would be very handy.
Thank you.
I was just going to say I'm having some childcare challenges that may require me to drop off here soon. I'm just giving a bit of warning on that. Apologies if I need to do that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's see, are there more ideas at this time to add to the list, or should we just turn it over to the outreach subcommittee to have further discussions with staff in the coming week or two?
I have one more idea about partners to help bring this message to the community, and that would be high school students. I think there's an environmental club at MA. I know that they used to have a fire drill Friday. Was that before the pandemic? I don't remember. But yeah, it would be great to get in touch with them. Kids have enthusiasm and energy, and people tend to pay attention. Also.
Right, they definitely are a natural constituency for this climate challenge, which grows larger in their lives than in mine. All right, and Rebecca, do you have any more topic areas in the slide deck that you'd like to get EQC thoughts on?
I think this is a good start, and I wasn't intending to try to get it all done in one night, or I don't think we were, but I think I agree it would be helpful probably for the subcommittee to look at and maybe hash out the other details, bring back to the commission. And it might be more efficient too as well, so that we can kind of kick off this outreach and prioritize. I think the next step is really prioritizing and figuring out, again, like who can do some of these activities, or maybe even engage with some of these partners. And I think those are good discussions to have with the subcommittee. And
right,
as you know, Ori is going to be leading this effort
right.
as well with us.
Yeah, and I think actually, since time is of the essence in dealing with the climate problem, maybe we need to make sure that the commissioners are understanding that there's, it would be helpful if individual commissioners are able to meet with some of these groups and talk, maybe meet with them and with staff, so that we can start talking about the possibility of partnerships and what can we do together to pursue these mutual interests with them? And can we count on their support that these are mutual interests? You know, do they share climate preservation as a goal also? So anyway, that's just putting it out there for commissioners to see the opportunity to further engage in this effort, even though you may not be on a subcommittee about it, but there will be some individual partnership work needed.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting too to see if some of them could actually lead, right? Like if one of these organizations that may not be considered environmental, like actually kind of incorporate it into kind of some of their events or activities to talk about it. So that way it kind of builds capacity in the community versus just, you know, the 7 of you, myself and Ori, and like, if, you know, are very passionate. I mean, there is definitely a lot of supporters that we see through emails to the city council. But sometimes, like you said, Chair Cabot, I mean, the message can be received differently if it's given by somebody else.
Right. It is an interesting dilemma that when these individuals group up under a label of the climate preservation, then their message is heard one way. But if it's a Main Street club that's viewed a different way, the message can be received as a more broad message. So yeah, I like that idea of working with these other Main Street entity potential partners to see to what extent can they lead and make their voices heard. All right, any further ideas from commissioners on this topic or from staff? Oh, yes, I see Commissioner Evans.
Oh, just adding what was in Menlo Sparks, Diane Bailey's email was that just so we don't end up duplicating efforts, to the extent that we want to use, her organization has produced a benefits of electrification. I believe it's a 1-pager. So there's some good documents with really solid bullets, so that we don't have to recreate content unless we want to. So that's a resource I think we ought to tap.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense to tap the text of other people's efforts on producing messaging and see to what extent the city wants to customize it for the city.
Exactly. Thank you.
And Commissioner Elkins.
Maybe back to the library idea, we could get the library to host it or some kind of an environmental emergency display, you know, books, highlighting certain books. And I know they have those display cases on at the entrance from the main library. They could have we could ask them if we could do a display presentation there. Something that's not just for April 22nd or whatever Earth Day is, but something that's during the summer. It was a great time because lots of parents are going through there with their kids looking for things to do.
That's a great idea. It brings back memories. I think that's setting up one of those displays was when I might have met Rebecca many years ago. was I brought a lot of materials to set up in one of those displays.
Right.
So yeah, I think utilizing the library's information outreach capabilities of all sorts, including that little display at the entrance.
And I don't know what's going on in Bellhaven, but obviously they are going to have a facility there too, and it's going to be environmentally progressive, and so some kind of a celebration of all of the environmental qualities of that facility would be great. And why?
Yes, there actually is going to be a kind of a model or kind of a demonstration of like the solar and battery backup.
Right.
But maybe connecting that to how you could do that at home would be great.
Right. And Commissioner Evans.
Yes, and on the note of Bellhaven, and maybe this is sort of an addendum to the religious organizations, for the block power project that the city is undertaking, both for electrification of properties and for getting Wi-Fi into the community, we, with help from Councilman Taylor, are reaching out to houses of worship in Bellhaven, which are really, as I understand it, and as has been communicated to me, really important organizations there, especially for people who maybe have lost trust in government resources and really look to their religious leaders for guidance. And once those relationships have been established, they haven't been established yet, but once they have been, to the extent that those houses of worships are willing and eager to work with us, we might be able to leverage those relationships for general electrification outreach also.
No, that makes good sense. So I didn't notice on the list of potential partners, but is it El Concilio on there? Which is,
No, but I can add it.
I mean, you could just put Council of Churches.
Okay.
We have, I know that Block Power is sending an email to the Council of Churches to glean potential interested partners there, and we'll see what emerges from that.
I haven't been recognized yet, but may I speak?
yes.
I recall that the police department is getting some electric vehicles, and we had talked, and I think that they have started using, have they? I know
Not
that
yet. They're
they had
still being retrofitted for.
right. Okay. I do recall a conversation where we were hoping that they would highlight their electricity fuel source, like on the car itself somehow, so that as it goes by, the community would know this is an electric car.
Mhm.
So the police department could be a partner in that respect.
Mhm. Yeah, right, combining that with another one of your ideas, I wonder if we, there was recently, I think it was the National Night Out, or is it still upcoming?
It's August 2nd.
Yeah, so if they were available to share on that night, that's a great night where law enforcement shows off some of their
Absolutely.
presence and equipment and some of their programs. So that might be a good one to talk about if it's there in time. And then another might be just bringing one of the cars over to off the grid and sharing it there,
Right.
a more informal setting.
Is it possible that they'll have a car by August 2nd, Rebecca?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still.
So then maybe the off the grid one is, maybe it'll meet one of their availability dates.
Yeah, I
If
think
it's
it's more
still
like
running.
September, October for the
Okay.
vehicles to arrive.
Okay.
Well, we could think of something for the fall that we
Mhm.
can highlight one of the cars.
Yeah, but we have a lot of nice evenings in September if off the grid and the car can coincide.
Right, and then there's the French market as well.
Well, I wonder if like for the off the grid, sorry, Commissioner
Go ahead.
Elkins, but Tom, I want to say, was somebody carting around the idea of like bringing like what a heat pump looks like?
Yeah, some of the vendors I've seen at the Earth Day events have a mobile heat pump they bring to show what a mini split heat pump looks like.
That might be great too, just to piggyback off of Commissioner Elkins. But I think a lot of times when we're talking, and Ori and I are talking to folks, they're just still kind of trying to envision what it looks like and where it would go.
How did it go with that? I know that there was an induction
Yep.
cooking
Yeah,
demonstration at the French market last month. Did anybody see that, attend it? Who put that on? Was it Menlo Spark?
No, Menlo Spark was involved. but I don't recall exactly what entity was underlying that. It may very well have been Menlo Spark.
Well, that French market, I think, will continue
Yeah, so
to
that,
Wednesday night be
French market.
right. What is it called?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Is it Bon Marché?
Bon
Yes.
Marché. There we go.
Oh my
Wednesday
goodness.
night. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
Google this. So, but okay.
so also, that's reminding me of an idea some other cities are doing as well, is looking at loaner programs through their library to lend out things like the countertop single or double burner induction unit that people can take home and learn about the benefits of induction cooking, how it's more powerful and faster and more controllable than gas cooking. So maybe, that'd be a potential item to start sharing through, say, the library or other means, or else just engaging Actera, who administers that kind of a program a little bit larger across the county or two counties, to maybe team up with them to advertise that availability here. And then, just thinking that the mini split heat pump is a kind of a cumbersome thing to bring around and demonstrate, but a more modular thing that's interesting in electrification is the electric fireplace. And so those are visually entertaining and comforting to our caveman instincts. And so that's easy to set up places like at the counter or under the counter at the library, so people can see what an electric fireplace looks like and just become more familiar with them.
I added tours
And
of
so
homes that have been
Commissioner
electrified.
Evans? Yep. Yes, let's see. Right, different communities in the East Bay, they've been doing tours of homes, and I know that folks are talking about it here on the peninsula to have a peninsula tour of electrified homes in the future. So that's another good engagement and outreach opportunity. All right. Well, it sounds like we've definitely got a good start on both lists of avenues for engagement and ideas for content. And so hopefully the subcommittee and staff can meet up soon and try to discuss this further and add more meat to these bones, and try to sort through them a bit. And then we need to be looking at point people to be leading these efforts and engaging in starting to talk with potential partners and seeing what we can do to expand efforts and bring more voices into the discussion. Right. And any other thoughts or comments before we move on to the next item? Okay, seeing none. Let's see, I don't think I'm not sure about having a vote on this item. It seems, Rebecca, does this seem like a action item that we would vote on?
No, I think by consensus, if you want to direct it to the subcommittee to work on and bring back, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
right.
the two kind of consensus items was like the permit streamlining to the subcommittee and continuing work on this brainstorming session for the CAP outreach subcommittee.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. That seemed like the two consensus actions to come out of this. And then, so that closes out item D2, bringing us to D3, which is review and discuss the August meeting schedule. And so there are times when we sometimes skip a meeting and have less than 12 in a year. And I just didn't know, is that what staff is thinking of for the August occurrence, or?
Yeah, we just wanted to check in to see schedules. So yeah, typically the Environmental Quality Commission has about 10 meetings a year, you know, and sometimes the summer schedules are harder to align. We've been doing pretty well this summer. So I think we could do a poll because I think some commissioners aren't here tonight, and then Commissioner Evans popped off as well. So we might just need to do a poll to make sure folks are available. But if we can't achieve a quorum, then the meeting is likely to get canceled.
Okay, so from my standpoint, I'm in favor of more than 10 meetings a year. And so I am, inclined to try to have an August meeting to try to see what we can do to keep working together to make forward progress on these important items. But it depends on there being enough other interested commissioners to have a quorum. We're down at this point in our meeting, we're down to 4, so we're still a quorum, but that's our minimum. And so I just thought I'd put that out to my fellow commissioners and see, do other people have thoughts on having an August meeting? And yes, Commissioner Elkins.
I am free on the 17th, which is the third Wednesday, and every other Wednesday except for the 10th. So, given that it's virtual, I don't have any problems. And I am happy to, I agree with you that since we're in a crisis, we should be meeting.
All right. And any other comments? Yes. Yes, Vice Chair Headley.
I'm also available that third Wednesday in August, and I'm happy to have more meetings as well.
All right, thank you. And then, see, I know these meetings, present work effort for staff, and is staff available in August for a meeting as well?
Yeah, it depends what the agenda items might be. I mean, at the very kind of worst case scenario, we might just need to move the meeting out by a week if we need to get materials together and some other items, because there's some time off. And I think I could discuss that more a little bit with you, Chair Cabot, and Vice Chair Headley when we meet very soon about the agenda.
Right, and also I think between this meeting and the August meeting, hopefully the council will have heard the quarterly report and may have some feedback on it and direction for outreach efforts, if they're able to provide that in that kind of a setting. So does staff need to make a different trip to the council to get that feedback?
Yeah, I think it's a different trip to the council. So, I mean, really the process is, so for the quarterly update or the update to council, it's more of a report out on what the EQC's been up to since you last were in front of the city council. But if you're looking for direction from them or further kind of action, then it becomes more of an amendment to your work plan, which has to go through the entire EQC and then be presented to the city council in a different kind of under a different kind of agenda title.
Right. Yeah. I think when I think of this, it's not that we're looking for an amendment to our work plan, but that you said today that staff is interested in more feedback from council about what types of outreach to be doing related to either the climate action plan or the REACH codes. Did I hear that right?
Well, I think when we were talking about the reach codes, trying to figure out, should we kind of start down the path of what kind of outreach and education could we do about proposed reach codes? I think what we're looking from council is kind of what measures are you wanting to move forward, as a group, so that we can kind of figure out what we're going to tell people is potentially going to come down their way as a requirement. And so we left off kind of from our last reach code discussion back in August, as the council wasn't supportive at that time. But as you mentioned, there's an opportunity with each reach code or each building code cycle every 3 years to kind of talk about it and kind of see what other cities are doing or in this area. So really kind of we need, since they weren't kind of supportive of moving forward reach codes at that time in August of 2021, we kind of need to kind of check back in and make sure, here are some things that we've figured are going to, potentially work. But we just need kind of that green light to say, yes, we want to look at all of the measures or some of the measures or even more measures to begin the outreach for reach codes.
Well, so actually, just thinking back to where we stand right now with council, the EQC have voted to have the staff report, or excuse me, the quarterly report of the EQC going to council, and also in a prior meeting to that had made specific recommendations for reach codes that are, above and beyond where our current one is. And so it represents advancement in the reach code. So there is, that content proposal already put out by the EQC as advice to the council, but there's not been an avenue yet for them to be hearing that. And so perhaps an order of how to go about this that would help meet the timeline would be to schedule a workshop similar to last August workshop, and to try raising the issue again in August, or September, whatever the first opportunity is with council, so that they can now see it a year later, and because more tools and content have been developed by other parties, and the situation has changed a bit in the science and the clarity of other people recognizing the science-based targets, that maybe the council will be at a point where they can clearly define what outreach it is that they need to see before they can act. And so what I'm asking about then is, because EQC has already made its recommendation, EQC doesn't need to meet again on it before that goes to council. Is staff ready to schedule a time for council to discuss that and provide them the feedback to staff that you're looking for on outreach?
So yeah, I mean, maybe we can kind of back up a little bit. So when we presented to the EQC in March, there was a timeline of this, like how much time it would take to kind of go to city council study session, do public outreach. And there was definitely like a cutoff time to meeting the January 1st date, and we've very much passed that. So kind of our closest next possible date is kind of later in 2023, July 1st or there shortly thereafter, because we do need that time to kind of do the actual public outreach and education about what's being proposed, and understand where the city council is as far as what measures they want to propose. So there's the staff recommendation that was provided in March, and then the EQC provided additional recommendations that you're going to be presenting to the council in the next couple of weeks. And so I think that's an opportunity for the council to see what those EQC recommendations are for the reach codes going forward. But the window has very much gotten smaller as to kind of being able to do everything in the next 3 months to move forward and preparing. And then I would also say, where the direction landed from the Environmental Quality Commission was to kind of wait and see what the Bay Area Reach Code Initiative was going to release as far as model codes for existing buildings. And so they released that toward the end of June. And as at a staff level, we do need time to review that, kind of figure out kind of how that fits into our previous recommendation or the EQC's recommendations to move forward. And so that requires, meeting with more than just the sustainability division on that as well. So I think we need to kind of, check a lot of boxes before we get to that study session if we're looking at the model codes that were provided by the Bay Area Reach Code Initiative. But we'll definitely get there. It's just, there's a process.
All right. So what does staff think about recognizing the complexity and challenge of existing building reach codes, the reach codes that would be new and would apply to existing buildings, versus enhancements to the new construction on empty lots, the new construction reach codes that would apply to buildings developers are building. And so is there an opportunity to move that item to council quickly so they can pass a new construction reach code that's effective January 1, and then take an additional several months to determine an existing building's reach code?
I mean, there's still stakeholders that would need to be engaged when we remove the exceptions, who have either active building permits or going through the planning process. And again, their availability and the ability to meet with their teams is still going to take time. So whether and if we go, there's still like this period of time that we need to get people in the same room or virtual room to kind of have the conversation about what's coming and hear their feedback and their thoughts on either the opportunity or the constraints.
And so I just want to clarify for people that reach codes affect the new reach code only affects buildings that apply for a permit after that date. So folks with active permits are not impacted by a new construction reach code, or or by whatever reach code. When you have a building permit, it's under the code that existed when you got your building permit, when you applied for your building permit. And so there won't be that crossover, but folks who are in a planning process and don't yet have a building permit, and then they get one after the effective date, they will be subject to the new building codes. That's just the normal use of building codes dates.
Right.
But so I'm just checking to see where staff is thinking in terms of when to make effective the new construction reach code. And it's sounding like you're saying at the same time as the retrofit reach code would be, which you're talking about being after January of 2023, some months after.
Right. And I think part of the agenda item that we had today was kind of, again, providing the education, the examples, the case studies, and kind of having all of that prep work to kind of gear up for both new and existing building reach codes.
Okay.
I mean, we've done a bit of outreach for those who might be affected by exceptions to our current reach codes, but the conversation is definitely ongoing, and we're getting there. It's just again is a process of transition and having those conversations and those examples provided. And so the Bay Area Reach Code technical team has been really helpful in those conversations. They've been a part of them. So we've definitely been sharing information.
Okay, and so just working my way through the different scenarios, if we don't take, if council does not take any action on reach codes, their reach code naturally expires at the end of December. And then there's no reach code in Menlo Park for a while until they approve a new one. And so another possibility is,
Well, we
that-
are bringing the 2019 reach code for readoption.
okay, so that's what I was about to get to, is that idea of exactly extending the 2019 to fill the 6-month gap that you're
Right.
looking at. I see. And so you have a plan for that and a council date for that?
Yeah, so
already?
that item's typically brought forward by the building division. So I'm
Mhm.
working with the building division. I think there are definitely items like very kind of cleanup and protection language, like not having a new electric building revert back to or revert to natural gas usage.
Mhm.
So very kind of limited in scope. Again, because of the small window of, there's a very small window for outreach that's just not going to be very doable to have those conversations that we need to have with people who would be impacted with new measures.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to come to terms with this idea of not even making a new construction reach code on January 1st that is, noticeably more impactful than our current one. But it sounds like staff has a plan and a schedule to get to council with essentially an extension, a re-upping of the same policy again
Mhm.
with a couple of minor cleanups or clarifications, but not a new capture of opportunities.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me. Yep, I see Vice Chair Headley.
I just wanted to say that I'm really glad to hear that the reach codes, that there's a plan to extend them while we work on plugging the other loopholes and increasing things. So I'm really glad to hear that. I feel like there's a weight off, because talking with Chair Cabot about a potential gap, it sounds like that would be very problematic. So I'm happy to know that that's not likely to happen. Thank you.
Okay, and then see, but did we address enough the issue of an August meeting? But I think Rebecca,
Yes,
on the topic, you were telling us about workload, and then I was bringing up possible content for that meeting. But we'll have to meet with the vice chair and staff to discuss a little more on content, what we might be able to do that's helpful and effective for August. All right. So I think that concludes our discussion of an August meeting. And so we'll be exploring having one. And so commissioners will see an announcement of which way that is able to go. And that brings us to item E, reports and announcements. So this is the chance for commissioners and staff to make reports to the commission about activities they've been involved with or reports they've worked on and want to be sharing with us. So does anyone have content for sharing in this reports and announcements?
So I could start off, and then I think if Mr. Paz is also wanting to share kind of some of the work he is leading, can definitely jump on. So in sustainability, kind of the areas that I've been focusing in on is reviewing the REACH code, the Bay Area REACH code initiative model codes, and kind of going through kind of where there are consistencies between the staff recommendation, the EQC recommendation, and kind of what else is new to look at. And then also working with Menlo Spark on the ICLEI grant for $1 million to help fund low to moderate income homeowners with building electrification projects through block power, and as well as EV charging for apartment complexes. So that's kind of the area I've been in over the last month or so. And did I update you on the city budget? I'm sorry. And so we did also get quite a bit of approvals for climate action plan initiatives. So we have 2 capital improvement projects. One is to electrify the Burgess Pool. That's new and working on this year. And also electric service upgrades needed for the Civic Center campus to electrify and have EV charging for our fleet, and also city employees that are definitely purchasing EVs and coming to work and finding it a challenge. So we're trying to find short-term solutions for that as well. And we did also get the resiliency climate adaptation position approved as well, a management analyst. So working through kind of that recruitment and kind of making sure that when we're ready for the recruitment, informing council kind of what that position will be doing and covering.
Well, congratulations on those 3 big approvals.
Yeah.
That's really great to hear that the Burgess Pool will get to be electric heat pump heated, and that the Civic Center EV charging plan is being worked on, and the new hire is being worked on. So those are all 3 great accomplishments. On the, I just had one question on the $1 million grant. Are you in the application phase now, or
Correct.
okay, so working on the application. Excellent.
And then also for the budget too. So we usually have a capital improvement budget to implement the climate action plan. And usually there's $100,000 that goes into that fund, and it rolls over if we don't spend it all. So that way we can move fast or kind of tackle things as we kind of catch up or are in a study mode and trying to then run forward. And I believe there's almost $500,000 in that fund as well. So there's definitely a good amount of resources and budget to kind of execute items to progress the climate action plan. So really great work to all of you too for what you do to kind of talk and kind of discuss what's needed and continue to keep that at the forefront.
All right, thank you. And at this time, does staff have ideas about what may be useful to do with the $500,000, or is that mostly a commission item where the commission needs to have an agenda item to explore where to spend that?
No, I mean, I would say, typically we use it for kind of either we need like technical kind of assistance, or, whether we're trying to pilot something that's new. So it's not totally closed off to kind of understanding like what we could do with that funding. But it is certainly helpful. Like we've definitely used it kind of for the reach codes that we did back in 2021. So we were able to get a team together to really help kind of do a study and an analysis on kind of the impacts of electrification on utility bills and the cost, right, and how incentives help to reduce that. I think it's definitely helpful.
Yep. So maybe we should be thinking of that 500,000 too, as part of it may be available in outreach efforts to try to work on getting the community engaged in the solution. Okay. And I see Mr. Pau's hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. So if it's all right, through the chair, I can provide another update report out from staff. Mine is focused on the CAP 5 progress that we've been making. And then kind of within that umbrella, there's a few smaller projects that we've been making advances on. So the first of which is something we talked a little bit about, which is the police department's Tesla pilot. So as Rebecca mentioned, the vehicles are being outfitted, and we're working internally to identify the needs so that we can collect the data and make sure that that's a successful pilot. So we've started meeting with the police department, and we'll be meeting with them regularly to identify champions within the department who are going to kind of help us to establish a baseline, and then discuss some of the qualitative experience around these vehicles, in addition to some of the more quantitative metrics around hours of charging, use, and things of that nature. So that's been exciting to see that progress. And as Rebecca mentioned, we are expecting, I think we may have the first vehicle back by the middle of August, but there are 3 vehicles being outfitted, so we can keep the commission updated as those come back, and keep them in mind for some of the outreach ideas and activities. The next exciting CAP 5 update has to do with the facility conditions assessments that have been underway. So the first drafts of those reports have been received, and comments are provided to Bureau Veritas, which is the consultant who's preparing those. So they're in the process of updating those as we speak. And so we're expecting to have that back in the next few weeks. And those have been really helpful. Even with the drafts, they've helped to inform a decarbonization plan, so an internal implementation guiding document, which is then going to help set us up to be successful in our electrification overview of the Burgess campus and then the other facilities. So that's really exciting as we look at what are the existing pieces of equipment that we have that are burning fossil fuels, what are the costs to replace them with electric alternatives, and then what is the condition of that equipment. So to identify the overall load as an estimate, and then the useful life of that equipment. So a ton of really great data coming in. And that is a nice segue as well to another program that Public Works has been championing around Energy Manager. So as part of an application for a Public Works accreditation, one of the requirements was to enroll in an energy management tool. And so we have a company called Brightly, who has now gotten all of our bills implemented into this tool. And so we can now run reports on greenhouse gas emissions by facility, the natural gas use, electricity, water use. So as we have these discussions moving forward, and as we're tracking progress towards CAP 5, we're going to have a lot more data, and we're going to have it a lot more accessible than it has been in the past. And then piggybacking on that, we also have a tool called Cartograph that the Public Works Division and some staff in our IT team have really been working to get online. And so in that system, all of the equipment that was identified as part of the facility conditions assessments will be uploaded into the Cartograph system. So we'll have one central repository to identify equipment, its status and its condition. And so that's really exciting to see all of these stars aligning, and then we can really use all of these tools to make some data-driven decisions, and hopefully put some of that $500,000 into maybe some facility upgrades, which brings me to my next update, which is that we've discussed with Wildan, which is they're the program administrators for a program to install electric heat pumps in lieu of water heaters. So we're working with them on the Burgess pool, and we also learned they have some incentive funds available for domestic water heaters. So we'll be continuing conversations with them and scheduling a site visit in the next week or so to have them come and visit city facilities to see if we can qualify for that, because those incentives will help to make every dollar we spend go further to eliminating fossil fuel use within the municipal operations. And I think that's all I have. It's been an exciting few weeks.
You're muted, Tom.
Chair Cabot, I think you're muted.
He definitely is muted.
Chair Cabot?
Oh, now I think I'm unmuted,
All right,
finally.
I can hear you.
So I've got a lag in the mute indicator. Is my problem. So, but thank you, Mr. Paz, for that report. It's great to hear the progress that you're making and the partners you're finding. I'm looking at these, say, with Wildan and their incentives that they're able to access. So it's good to hear of the city's efforts to get out there and lead on that transition with showing by doing. Any other reports from commissioners?
I just wanted to, I don't have a report, but I was wanting to ask Commissioner Headley if you did meet, I know that you and Commissioner Schmidt and Headley were talking about having a meeting regarding the urban tree canopy in a master plan, and I didn't hear whether that had, being a member of I told them that I wasn't able to be there because I was out of state, but I didn't hear whether that happened or not. So
Yeah, I can share a little bit. So Jeff Schmidt, Scott Marshall, and I met on June 22nd. And Scott is, I think he's a former member of the EQC, and he's also part of Canopy now, which is a local organization dedicated to extending the tree canopy in the Mid-Peninsula. And the main thing we talked about was how East Palo Alto just recently created an urban forest master plan. And it sounds like they got funds through CAL FIRE. They provided an initial grant to help make that plan happen. And there was, I think you saw the email. If you haven't, I can forward it to you. From, let's see, I think her name is Catherine, the woman who is the executive director of Canopy.
yes, Martin. No, she has a, yes, I know who you're speaking of.
Yeah, so there's a lot, it seems like there was a lot of really great resources, like a template for creating the plan, as well as a strategy and how to move forward on an action. It feels like we could, in many ways, like copy and paste and potentially move forward rather quickly. But I believe there were a few actions that we needed to take to, reach out to our city arborist. And yeah, I was kind of hoping that Jeff would be here to provide the update, because I can't remember exactly where we were at with all of that. I think everyone went on vacation right after that meeting. So I think more will be provided soon.
Great, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mini update.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
All right, and thank you. And any other reports or sharing that people want to do before we adjourn? All right, so seeing no other reports, I'd like to adjourn our July 20th meeting at 8:01. Thank you all for attending and working on these important issues.
Great, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.